How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Good, good, good. Let's get into the conversation. The main connection we have is Toastmasters International. I've presented in conferences and we've also engaged in Toastmasters Internationals worldwide. But beyond this conversation, we also have education, storytelling, humor, and other things in common. Today, we want to look at the fact that the stories that we give in Toastmasters, it's very impactful, but it could be more impactful when we have it written down in the form of stories. And that's what you've done with your book, Embracing Your Fruit. All right? See, we both have it. Embracing Your Fruit. That's what you've done here. Because there are stories that should not only be heard, but be written for greater impact. Because people give personal stories on the podium, but then sometimes people forget that because it's not written down. And I just came back from the international speech competition. I wonder how many of those stories is people are still going to remember
Yes.
after laughing about them and things like that. But you did something better. You collaborated with a group of people to write a book, and that's part of what we're going to be discussing today. So the title of the book, why the title of the book?
Embrace your fruits came from the Bible, the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians. And when I think of embrace your fruits, it means accepting your challenges. I'm not sure if you heard the quote, life is what happens in between your plans.
Mhm.
So, in between your plans, you have ups and downs. And when you embrace your fruits, you accept it, you learn from it, you grow from it, and in turn, you bear fruits. That could be fruit of love, fruit of kindness. On the opposite end, it could be fruit of resentment if you're not healed. So the title Embrace Your Fruit came from, again, the challenges I was going through in my life. And I didn't want to just give up and say, oh my gosh, this is too much for me, or why me? And I love strong, powerful verbs, and embrace is one of those verbs that I've been seeing around. And it just was apropos when I decided to name the book Embrace Your Fruits. And then the other piece, Overcoming to Becoming, it helps me to explain Embrace Your Fruit more. Why are we embracing your fruit? What's at the end of that? And at the end of that is overcoming a challenge to become who God has made you.
Wow, excellent, excellent. And that's exactly what you have in the book, Embrace Your Fruits. Because in the book, I saw that there were stories from different individuals. It's not only your personal story that you put there, because we know as a Toastmaster, personal stories are very good. That's how you learn about somebody, that's how you can be part of somebody else's world. So, how did you come about this collaboration that you had with this group of people to write the book, Embrace Your Fruits?
So, how I came about the collaboration, and I'm hearing some background noise here. So, Embrace Your Fruit was a part of a larger collaboration. So, Embrace Your Fruit, my chapter was written in another book, Courage Under Siege From Flight to Light by Peggy Lee Hansen, who's also featured in this book. So, I wanted to have a compilation series as well that was diverse, that had people from different ethnic backgrounds, people from different walks of life, business wise, career wise. And I wanted to hear their story of Embrace Your Fruit. So it started with my compilation being a co author, and then I was inspired to do the same in my own compilation.
Thank you so much. That's really excellent. Excellent so much. So the story is talking about how to overcome challenges. And you just said you quoted a chapter of the Bible, Galatians and things like that, that means that there's a spiritual aspect of this. For people who don't understand that, how do you explain that to somebody who's probably never been to a church before?
I wanted to make, probably mute your mic, perhaps. I wanted to make it user friendly. So that's why I didn't lead with, okay, yes, it's from the Bible, but it's about life. So Embrace Your Fruit is about embracing your life's challenges, and everybody has challenges. So let me dive a little bit deeper about what Embrace Your Fruit really is. When you think of a fruit, this morning, if I ate an orange or an apple, that's a fruit. So a fruit is something that's planted. So if you're planted somewhere, be it a church or your job, there's going to be things that you learn from. There's going to be challenges. How do you handle that challenge? And the way how you handle that challenge, you will bear fruit. So for example, if you're a gossiper, you're going to bear a fruit of resentment. If you're a helper or a leader, you'll bear the fruits of kindness and love. So it's about understanding where you're planted, whether it's a church or otherwise, and how you're able to navigate your life's journey. And whether good or bad, you're going to learn from that. And from you learning from that, you're bearing fruit. So without even going into the Bible, I think that analogy will help people to understand that, this is life.
Good, good. Thank you so much. That this is a very practical thing that anybody can apply. And so we can go to the details of what you have in the book. One of the stories that I liked about the book was when you were talking about your dad. You wrote he was a strong disciplinarian who wanted us to stay study daily and speak proper English rather than playing outside. That was very similar to the way my dad dealt with us. He was always thinking, well, you guys can actually pick up a book and read instead of just walking around and playing with kids that that you probably don't want to play with, or because they don't know the parents of the kids and they always try to be careful and things like that. So that's one of the things that caught my attention. Another part of it that caught my attention is this statement: as my grandmother told me numerous times, you are never too old to learn from those younger than you. I think it's a concept that I understand personally, because as you go around in life, you meet people that you're older than that you can learn from. But then I don't think everybody understand that. I don't think, especially in certain parts of the world whereby it's not fully embraced that you can learn from someone that is younger than you. If somebody is older, usually they want to let the person, I'm older than you, and when I'm talking, you don't talk, that kind of a thing. So how do you how do you encourage such individuals to just slow down and learn from somebody that is younger than them?
What I love about that question is we can learn from everyone, from an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old. And when I think about what someone younger brings to the table, they sometimes bring the technology, they understand what's happening in their world, they may read a book. So we can always learn from someone who's young because their experience is different from our experience when we were 7 or 10 years old. You'll be surprised how many younger generation, they read a lot. They're good with cryptocurrency. They're good with social media. They're good with a lot of different things that we may not have been interested in. And I could tell you, as an instructor, I learn from my students as much as I partake knowledge to them. And for the older folks, we're getting solid experience, like from my dad, that is not written in a book. So learning goes both ways. So we can learn from any and everyone. And I know we referenced Toastmasters before. After about 12 years, every meeting that I attend, I learn from everyone. I learn from a guest. I learn from from a new member. I learn from someone who's been in Toastmasters for many years. So learning is one of those things that helps us evolve, and
Yeah.
we can learn from anyone.
Wow, interesting. And I think there's a part of the book that also states that learning makes you stay fresh and relevant. Who does not want to be fresh? Who doesn't want to be relevant? You always want to be able to say something that somebody wants to hear. And one of the very easy way to do that is just to keep learning and having conversations like this, which is something that we should encourage everybody to engage in. Another part of the book that I also like is people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. This is by legendary singer Barbara Streisand. That statement is very good, especially for people like me. I like being around people having conversation, but then I know it's not everybody that likes that. It's not everybody that likes to be around people or feel that they need somebody's help,
Hmm.
because it takes some courage to ask for help and things like that. I wonder what your thoughts is on this statement.
One of the authors, Conrad Williams, you may want to mute your mic real quick. One of the authors in the book, Conrad Williams, he always says, one hand cannot clap. So you can't clap with one hand, you need two hands. And I believe that you always need people to help you, to ask questions, mentors, coach. That's why in the Bible that God talk about getting married. I mean, it's hard for you to be an island. Even when you have a child, you need a village. So it's important to understand that we need people. And that is a testament to this book, because I could have written this book by myself, but I said no. I know a few other authors or upcoming authors who would share their story. They have shared their story on the stage of Toastmasters, but this is another opportunity for them to share it written, so they have something for their legacy, for their family. So teamwork is important. It's critical almost. In business, there's a lot more collaboration than there is competition. So I think if we understand the value of people around us, and if we have one common goal, people will know that this is a good thing. If we have the right people on board and they agree to the common goal.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. You just mentioned something that is very interesting. Business is more collaboration than competition. And I wonder how much of collaboration people are interested in doing these days. But based on your experience in business and other things that you do, what are the important things to know for sure who to collaborate with? If you're thinking about collaborating with somebody, how do you know the right person to collaborate with, and what are you looking for?
So when it comes to the right person to collaborate with, the first thing is not to jump into a situation. Like last weekend, I was at the Business Brokers of Florida conference. You get to know the person. You see if they have common interests. You see if they want to collaborate and how you can collaborate. So it's a slow process. And in business, a lot of people have niches. So if my niche is to sell accounting firms and your niche is to sell car washes, I will send you business and so forth. So when you collaborate with someone, you are collaborating on a business transaction. You have one that focuses whether on the finance, one focus on building the clients or whatever the case is. So there's different pieces of it. And you want to make sure that that person is a long-lasting relationship and not just a transaction. Because a lot of people in business, they definitely have a niche. And there's a lot of business for everyone. When I was in the tax field, that was the same thing. If I focus on individual taxes, you may focus on business taxes. So collaboration is huge, and referrals and networking partners as people are successful.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you so much. Collaboration is very important for people who really find it useful for themselves. Still talking about your book, Embrace Your Truth. All right, we're still talking about that. There are different statements in the book that I really like. One of the statements is from Maya Angelou. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with passion, compassion, humor, and style.
Mm.
In your own opinion, based on your experience in the professional world and Toastmasters and things like that, what are the important things that you think you bring to a collaboration? Like if you want to collaborate with somebody and things like that, what kind of skills and knowledge do you think you've acquired over the years to be able to engage and collaborate with people?
The three skills that I bring, first and foremost, is empathy. I tend to put myself in someone else's shoes, and I ask questions and I listen. That has been helpful for me for collaboration. The second thing is I bring my skill of numbers and critical thinking to find out what the problem is, what's the solution, and what are the action steps. And the third thing is I bring myself. I bring my
Hmm.
authentic self,
Yes.
lighthearted,
Mhm.
funny, and my love for people. So the empathy, the critical skill, and my love for people and solving problems. And that has worked for me well.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Because this is a question that I think about when I want to collaborate with people. And you answering that question will probably make me go back to my drawing board and think and critically think about this. Because we all say we want to collaborate with people, but then you really have to make sure you communicate what you're bringing to the table to the other person so that they know that you're a good fit for such collaboration and things like that. So thank
And
you for sharing. Go ahead.
if
So,
I may add one thing, um, not every collaboration is forever. So sometimes some people collaborate on one project and then that's it. Sometimes that person is just someone who is beneficial to your business long term. So it's important to know when to end the collaboration with a person or a company when it no longer fits your need, when it no longer serves a purpose. So I think that's the beauty of collaboration is know when the story has ended and move on, because certain people are meant to be in your life for a time, season, or reason. So I'm learning how to let that go, and that's something in my book where I said I have a lot of relationships that just died of a natural death. They just stopped calling. I just stopped calling, and it's fine. There's no love loss. There's no, hey, what happened? You ghost me, or none of that, because in the end, if it's meant to happen, it will happen. And the opposite is true. I've called people who I haven't spoken to in 5 years, and they said, hey, I was just thinking about you. Oh my gosh, how are you doing? And I'm okay with that. So just wanted to add that.
thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's why an African proverb say that 20 friends cannot be friends for 20 years because something will happen at some point. So people would not be interested anymore. Even 5 friends, 10 friends, it's very difficult to be friends for 5, 10 years anymore.
Yes.
It's you really have to reach out to the other person to keep in touch with them. Another part of the book that I really like so much is from Charles Bukowski that says, if you have the ability to love yourself first.
Hmm.
For me, I have a problem. I like reading in between the line when I see statements like that. And one of the assumptions that can come from such statement is that probably not everybody has the ability to love themselves. And I wonder how many people who find yourself in that kind of situation still try to love another person despite the fact that they find it difficult to love themselves. That's a very powerful statement that got me thinking from that book. So that conversation now led to self-care in your book, Embrace Your Truth. The conversation led to self-care, and that you started talking about self-care, and you said you're an advocate for radical self-care. And my question is, how and when did you become an advocate for radical self-care?
So I'm going to address what you mentioned earlier. So in the Bible, it talks about holos, about loving God with your mind, body, soul. So if you love God, you love yourself because you are created in His image, and then you're supposed to love your neighbors and your enemies as yourself. To me, that's one love, and I'm from Jamaica, so I love saying one love. So definitely loving God and yourself, you'll automatically love your neighbors in that order. So when you love yourself, and I don't want it to sound where you're all about self, but when you love yourself, you take care of yourself. You make sure that you're not in any situation that is going to harm you. You look at the friends that you have. You look at your diet. You look at all things so that you can be whole, so you can take care of someone else. And I was a victim of being everything to everyone. And I got burnt out really bad. And the careers that I have, teaching and accounting, those are hardcore careers where you work and you don't get sleep. And there's a phrase that people say, "Oh, you will sleep when you die." That's not good. So having all those things happen, it pushed me to go into self-care. So my body stopped before I did. And then that's when I became a self-care advocate. And I said, and then COVID taught us that too, because your very health affects someone else. So once I decided that I had to fix myself, that's when I tuned into self-care, not, by way of God, by knowing that He told us how to take care of our bodies, our minds, our soul. And then once I did that, everything followed. I got more opportunities. I was able to write the book. I'm able to do my first podcast with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm spreading the word about self-care. And self-care is not selfish. It's the most unselfish thing you can do, because when you take care of yourself, you can take care of everyone else. And I'm still on that self-care journey. And I became a certified self-care coach because I wanted to learn more about this.
Wow, good, good. Thank you so much. Still talking about self-care. I know self-care is very important. We can both agree on that. I know that for sure. But then for people who are still struggling with that, what is the most interesting misconception on self-care that you've heard or you've experienced as a person?
That self-care is a luxury.
Hmm.
Self-care is about doing your nails, getting massages, and that's just a temporary fix. That's not what self-care is. So people think self-care is overindulging in themselves, eating ice creams, smoking, drinking, take sleeping 2 days at a time, binge watching, all these things. And these things are destructive. Self-care is more a reflective, personal thing than it is a spending money thing, because I talk about finances in the book, and you don't want to burn all your money or spend all your money in the name of self-care, because you're doing your nails and you're doing all these other things to give yourself a temporary relief in the name of self-care. So just knowing what self-care is and what self-care is not. And in the book, I pulled a few things on the myths, and then I demystified to some degree and gave some suggestions as well.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Self-care is very important. We can all agree on that. But then for people who are still like, of course, I know all this is not self-care. Now I have to change, but then how can somebody figure out the self-care that is appropriate for them?
I think the first thing would be reflection. Look at their life. What is hurting me? Is it my sleep? Is it my eating? I think that's how I started, is to find out what's hurting you, what is causing, what's that pain point, and just take care of that one thing. And then after that one thing is taken care of, go to the next thing. A common one is your diet. If you feel sluggish or you just don't feel like yourself because your body tells you what's happening, just take a walk. Take a walk to the mailbox. 10-minute walk per day. Eat one less cookie. Go to bed an hour earlier. So if a self-care, just to start, is to just look at one thing that's not working for you and make a small tweak. And then after a while, after 21 days, it becomes a habit. And then slowly you can chip away at these self-care activities. It doesn't have to be what's in the book or what people say in the media. It has to be something that connects to you to make you be the better version of yourself. But do it in bite-sized pieces.
Wow, good, good. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I like that you bring the number of days in, 21 days. So why 21 days?
So over the years, I've been studying different thought leaders, and I don't remember who quoted this, but after 21 days of doing an action, it becomes a habit. And I've seen that in my exercise. I've seen that in my daily devotion. I've seen that with my eating habits. So there's a magic number of the 21 days that gives you that consistency. And
Wow,
there's a high probability that after the 21 days, you will maintain that habit with hopes that it is a good habit. And then you could transform your life one day at a time.
wow, wow. Interesting, interesting. So I have to look at for the things that I've been able to do consistently for 21 days and just call it my habit. Wow, good. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Still
welcome.
talking about your book, Embrace Your Fruit, becoming, coming to becoming. One of the things that you highlighted in the book was relationship. And I wonder the best advice that somebody has given you on relationship, what would that be?
Relationship is hard work. Relationship is fruitful when communication is the centerpiece of it. And being newly married, that was something that I wanted to make sure I understand having that relationship. On the spiritual side, having a relationship with God. So communication is huge, and communication out loud. Not thinking, oh, this is what the person is thinking, or they did that, so I'm going to test them, and none of that is necessary, I think. So again, one of the best advice I've gotten is communication is going to be your love language if you want a relationship to be fruitful and you want to resolve issues so that the relationship again bears fruit and stands
Wow,
for a purpose.
wow, excellent. Communication is very important in the relationship. And we know this because we're Toastmaster and things like that. But then people who don't consider things like that very important, it's still something that you have,
Yes.
hey, communicate. Communication is very important. It's
And
it could
and
be
and
very
if I may add something to that, I think being authentic. So we're in Toastmasters, we're trained to communicate, and that's where leaders are made. But some people are not a part of this tribe of Toastmaster. Just being yourself. If you're yourself and you're authentic and the other person receives it and you can work out your issues from that space, to me that will help the relationship in many ways. I know with people are dating, they always say, "Oh, I'm dating you, my representative," because you're being nice for the first 3 months and then you turn into some monster. So just forget about the representative. Just be authentic. People will know when you are true. People appreciate when you come and say, "You know what? I'm sorry. I thought this, I misread this, I believe this, I heard this." And that to me will help and build a solid foundation for your relationship.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. It's amazing how much what happens during dating is very different from what happens in marriage. and,
Absolutely.
and many people don't know this until they actually get married. Then they wonder what happened. That's a discussion for another day.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I also want to learn from is your career choice, your job approvals and job acceptance over the years, and how that have shaped what you think of the professional life in general.
When it comes to career, you have to start with what you're good at and then what you're passionate at. So I started my career in accounting about 30 years ago because my dad was an accountant and I was good at math. And I know that having that skill will help me tremendously. But so when you're choosing your career, you have to look at this lifestyle of the career as well. And over the years, because I've burned myself out on the career, I had to change. So for 20 to 30 years, I've been going back and forth with teaching and accounting, and those are the careers of my parents. And I was able to mold both of them recently and become a business broker. So when it comes to careers, sometimes your career chooses you. That's how I feel about teaching.
Hmm.
Yes, I love teaching, but I was able to be, K through 12 teacher teaching seventh grade and eighth grade math. I was able to teach, high school. I was able to teach college. I was blessed to be an associate dean for 2 years. I've been a tutor. So I've had every experience in education because, again, it goes back to learning. Learning is one of those things that can help you to be economically stable in life. And that's the one thing I love about America as well. If you learn any career, you will be successful. There will be the opportunities there for you. So I'm a strong advocate of learning and knowledge and applying it by way of your career.
Wow, thank you so much. There's something that just came up from your conversation just now about the fact that the career choices that you chose are actually a representation of what your dad and mom did also. And I wonder how much of such influence came into that. Because I know as an African parent will almost tell you, this is what I want you to study.
Absolutely. Caribbean's the same.
And if you don't study it, there's a problem. Either you don't get support from me or you're just on your own. And just like you mentioned that America feels like a little bit laid back with things like that. It's just the opportunities are there. Find what you want to do. Will support you. You can almost do it. You can be a trash collector and make good money in America. But then that's one of the cultural shock that I first experienced when I came. I discovered that people that clean actually use good cars here.
Yes, and construction workers as well. Because my brother's in the construction and he has a healthy salary. So, but following up with your question, my parents' careers influenced me a lot because I was around it for so many years. So when I was 8 years old, I was helping my mom teach her class. And I'm like, I think I should be learning. Why am I helping you? But that started my career journey. Same thing with my dad. He taught us accounting at a young age, so I was always around it. but I didn't think that was the end all be all. So I was able to merge it and create my own career. So the lesson for that is a lot of kids or individuals growing up, whatever their parents did, they tend to mirror that or mirror the opposite of that. And I know growing up, there's three careers that individuals do. They're either a teacher, an accountant, or like a secretary. Those were like the three main careers. So now there's so many other directions that one could go. So it definitely has to do with what you're passionate about, what you are afforded. Like if you have the chance to go to a college and get the degree, and if you have a job that will pay for your education. So there's so many ways in America in which you can go about the career and the education, and then you can pivot whenever you would like based on the industry, the market, your interests, your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. In the midst of all this knowledge, learning, skills that we're developing, it appears that the only place where changes can be made is in the political system. For example, I was still having a conversation yesterday as to how so many things are not being regulated. Artisans, people that do handiwork in America, I can almost tell you that they want to charge anything for what they want to do without any regulation. It seems that somebody can want to change your plumbing pipes and say, well, they want to actually receive $1,000 for doing that. And it seems that there's no regulation, there's nothing that can stop them from saying they want to do that. That means that there's still some loopholes here and there with regulations and making laws and things like that. So my question is, with all this experience that you are gaining leadership role, associate dean, Toastmasters International, and things like that, how can these skills be applied to affect the political system that are actually making the decisions? Because getting all these skills is not useful if somebody is still there making the decisions for you anyways.
I'm going to approach this question in a couple of ways. The first thing one should do is to understand the policies of the current administration and then vote accordingly. The second thing is get to know the people who are in politics in your area and speak to them and understand how the political system works. So when it comes to your skills, in Toastmasters, we have different paths, and there's a path called persuasive influence. If you can be on a committee where you can affect change, like before COVID, I wanted to serve as a school board member in Martin County. So get on a committee and volunteer and use your communication skills, your interpersonal skills, and talk to the people who are in charge of a certain area and see if you can make some type of influence, whether by volunteering, helping with the campaign, or something to that effect, so that you have a contribution. And if you feel more passionate about it, then you can consider running for office and using our speaking skills, both virtually and in person, to not just persuade, but to show an issue, to voice the change, and to have action steps towards it. So I know a lot of people talk about they're shy and all this other stuff, but being open, honest, use your communication skills and speak to the right people, that to me is what's going to evoke change on a local level, on a national level.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very helpful. Now people know what they can actually do to get involved and influence things and not just talk about the problem. And that's why this name of this podcast is Solution Illuminator Series, because we don't just want to talk about the problem, we want to talk about the solutions. I just came back from the conference for Toastmasters International. And during the business meeting, I observed that people were running for posts and they had to give some speeches, impromptu speeches for the most part. I observed that when most Black people go up, they didn't connect with the audience very well. They appear a lot uptight, stiff, and very unrelatable. And for the most part, some of these candidates did not even get a vote. The other
Mm.
individuals win. And that got me thinking about, even though we're all Toastmasters, because these people that came up, they were Toastmasters. So they know, they probably have an idea of what communication is. And it seems that there's a struggle as to how they wanted to communicate what they're saying to the audience and how the audience perceive what they're saying. And of course, right there we had to vote who won, and I can see the side talk, gestures, people saying things, and me trying to go, what did you mean by this person? Do you know this person? And I actually have to ask certain people questions about the candidates because I don't know the candidate too. So for the most part, we really had to judge by the 2 minute speech that this individuals gave. So if you go up there and you appear really uptight and not relatable and not really caring so much about the things that you're saying, most of the time these people don't get the votes that they needed to get.
Mm.
And my question is, you being the person of color, what's your experience around that, and what would you recommend to have more Black people represented across the board, even in Toastmasters and outside?
I think that we should we should look a little bit beyond that, meaning if we can find a way to have topics that are universal, then it's more relatable. Because if I go on a stage and I start talking about Jamaicans and something specific to Jamaicans, I will lose 90% of the audience, whether African Americans or otherwise. So I think it starts with choosing a topic that's universal and then knowing that when we're speaking, or speech is not for us, or speech is for the audience. And if we keep those two in mind, I think that will yield a greater result. So, for example, if I had a chance to speak at the international convention, I would speak about something related to something like self care, something that relates to education, something that relates to financial literacy, something that relates to something that happened in my life. Like in my book, I talked about being hit by a car and not being obedient or following my gut when my gut says don't go, and I'm like, yeah, but I should go, and my mom is like, yeah, no, and then I went and I got hit by the car. So something like that, that you pull the audience in so you're not pushing them away. So choosing the topic, make sure it's universal, and know that we're speaking for the audience. We're not speaking for ourselves. And I think that will help us to be a little bit more representative. Because my entire career, I haven't seen people that looks like me. But I had to connect in a way that it didn't matter with the results that I was trying to get. And it's always going to be a struggle. But I think the connection goes back to the relationship, being authentic, and have something of value to say. And I think that's where we can start breaking the barriers, because after following Toastmasters International in the last, I want to say, 15 years, we've had a lot of Black candidates that have been international. And this goes back even from 1997, 1995. So I just think we need to come together a little bit more so that we can represent ourselves better and we may be better received.
Good, good. I'm glad that you said that we are making progress. It's just that we
Yes,
have to make more progress.
correct.
That's the whole point.
And then do it together.
Yeah,
So
together.
having this podcast, I'd like to applaud you for that, because if we have more of these opportunities and avenues, we will learn and grow.
Good, good. Thinking about how to collaborate, not how the other person is going to fall or something bad is going to happen to them. It's something. It's something we have to do more. It's very good that you mentioned Jamaica. And I want to ask you, how was it growing up in Jamaica? What was the punishment? What was the rules that you experienced?
Ah, Jamaica, ooh, is such a beautiful island, and I was there about a month ago, so I still have it fresh in my mind. Jamaica, when I was growing up, there was a lot of rules. And well, it's just a few basic ones. Listen to what I say, don't talk back, and know that I own the home and not you. Those are basic. So I think it was a very strict because the life in Jamaica, we don't have a lot of opportunities. And our family was middle class, so we had a chance to go to high school and everything else, but it was strict. We just had to do what my parents told us. But we didn't have a lot of distractions like social media, a telephone. I think we had one telephone in the home, but it wasn't it was less about the strict and more about obeying our parents and enjoying our childhood. And I enjoyed my childhood. And we had family outings. We went to the beach, we went to church. The weather was always beautiful. So it was strict, but I would prefer, if I had to do it again, I would choose my culture and the way how strict it was, because now when you have less rules, you have more opportunities to do other things. And as a child, you want to do everything and you don't know the consequences. Where in Jamaica, we knew the consequences right away. And I didn't challenge any authority because I didn't like the drama. I just wanted to sleep, go do my activities, study, and that was it. So I was an easy child. My siblings, oh no.
In
Yeah,
other
they were
words,
a bit wild.
you didn't like to be spanked, right?
No, no, I think I got spanked probably 3 times in my entire life.
Okay. It's amazing that you said something about the Caribbean parent making sure that you understand the house is not yours, you're just living there, kind of a
Yes.
thing. And that's the same thing for African parent too. So a good story is when I make my kids to pray in the night, my kids will pray that thank you for my house and thank you for my. So sometimes I want to stop them and say, this is not even your house yet. What do you mean? What do you mean? Thank you for your. But it's something that's usually very funny to me when they say that. I love to hear that every night when they pray. One of the things that I also still want to understand is how you were able to make the adjustment from everything that was going on in Jamaica and America. For example, the credit card. I saw the story on the credit cards there. What are these little food credit card experience that you had when you make that transition to America?
It was the toughest thing I've ever seen. Coming from Jamaica and coming here. Let's start with the credit card. I didn't understand the credit system in America. And I just thought this was like a welcome gift to us. And it wasn't until I started speaking to, my instructors and everyone else that I understood that America has a credit system and that we needed to use it to build our credit so we can purchase a home. So what helped me with that transition was I got some American friends and they showed me the different things, and I had some teachers who became mentors. And actually, one of my girlfriend has an organization that helps people transition from Jamaica to here. So I think plugging into different organizations can help as well. And just joining different groups. So the transition was tough with the credit system. It was tough with the food. I realized that there wasn't a lot of organic food here. So I just ate everything I saw and I gained a ton of weight. So I had to go back to eating organic food, go back to exercising, go back to not having the microwave and everything else. So overall, the transition was tough, but I had some people to mentor me and I learned along the way. And over time, it got better. It got better. Now I'm in America 30 years this year. So I can mentor someone who just came from Jamaica right now.
Good, good. I mean, that's what this is all about. You're sharing your knowledge, and someone that
Yes.
probably don't know you. My expectation is if you say something that really connect with somebody and they need advice, the person will reach out. I mean, that's is that what we're supposed to do as humans? But we don't do that anyway. So we do something else. One of the things that you want to say something?
No, I was going to say, like, now that we have Facebook, I'm sure there's a lot of Facebook groups, a lot of
Yes.
WhatsApp group, and a
Mhm.
lot of things that a lot of people can connect with and learn more and get acclimated with the culture a lot faster than when I came 30 years ago.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of the things that also connected with me in the book is how people share their stories and how their nicknames change during their personal growth. Is there any story you're willing to share concerning nicknames and how it changes during your personal growth and how people can learn from such changes?
Okay. Oh, I love that question. So my store in particular, I started out with being called Annie Palmer and all these things. I just think that the nickname is associated with the different organizations and your profession. So, for example, my name is Anne Marie McLaughlin. If someone says, "Hey, Anne Marie," I know they're from college because in college they called me Anne Marie. If somebody say, "Hey, Professor McLaughlin," I know it's one of my students from the past. I know if someone says, "Hey, DTM Ann," is someone from Toastmasters. So whenever I change spaces, my name changes. And since I've been an author, I've been author Ann and audacious Ann. So it's just one of those things that
Good.
happens, which is good for branding.
Yeah. Good. Good. Thank you for
But
sharing that.
it also shows like you transition over time and you evolve. And then that's what you want to do, is to evolve over time and learn and grow into the different spaces in which you're living.
Good. Good. On a more lighter note, I saw that when you were growing up, you said your sister used to play chess.
Yes.
Does she still play chess?
No, she doesn't, but she should.
She should.
So so with chess, that was one of the games that my dad taught us for problem solving skills. And I think that was one of the best games we've ever had outside of the accounting and bookkeeping. And I got fascinated with chess again, and I am going to join the US Chess Federation
Good. Good.
and revisit my passion for chess and perhaps help young kids to learn how to play chess.
Good, good. Very, very interesting. I used to take chess very seriously. I now teach my kids now every Sunday. I used to thought I was going to take it more seriously, but I just, oh yeah, I'm just going to focus on other things. But I'm now trying to go back to and try to play more of chess. Other things that I also find interesting about Jamaicans, which I'm going to ask you about on a lighter mode. Why do Jamaicans say good night even in the morning when you see somebody for why?
I have the same question because I just think it's a culture thing because normally you would say good night at nighttime after you finish speaking.
Mhm.
It's just one of the greetings. I want to say that it came from or English background because we were owned by the British for a while. We say good day.
Mhm.
We say good morning. We don't really say hello and hi. That's like an American thing. It's just one of those things that that we because my husband is Haitian and they would say, "How was your night?" And I said, "Well, I slept. I woke up. Yeah." But that's the thing. How was your night? So it's just one of those cultural cues that they have. I'll ask someone more Jamaican than me, like my parents, to see why good night. But I think it just came from the British system, and it's a part of them being polite.
Well, good, good. Thank you so much for sharing. If you're just joining us, we are talking about my guest book, Embracing Your Fruits, Overcoming to Becoming. You can get this on Amazon. We're wrapping up very soon. This has been a very great conversation. I've learned a lot myself, and I hope our viewers and we've also learned a lot, and they're going to share the knowledge that they've learned in this post and in other posts and with their friends and family. As we wrap up, are there any things you want to say to the audience before we leave?
I just want to say thank you for all the support for Embrace Your Fruits. We wrapped up our summer Sip and Sign tour, and we've had some readers who have shared some remarkable testimonials. And I'm just happy that I had a chance to share the story. And one of the biggest takeaway is that you can embrace life's challenges and you can overcome to become without changing who you are. And to know that you are enough. Because I know with the culture that we live in, it's about all these fast paced things and gravitating. Don't get distracted. Just know that if you serve a higher power, that's where your connection lies, and value relationship, people, and most importantly, yourself. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, my excellent, wholesome guest. The knowledge was very rich. The experiences, I got to laugh and learn at the same time. Thank you so much, my guest, Toastmaster Anne McLaughlin. It's been a nice time having this conversation. Thank you for taking out some time in your busy schedule to be able to share your experience and make sure we learn from it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you some other time. And bye, our guest. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.